So much of
I wrote the beginning of the album last, which was really difficult actually. Normally I will write the album kind of scattered, and usually I'll come up with the first songs, the beginning of the record, the first couple songs off the album. And that wasn't the case here, it was the opposite. So it was kind of interesting, kind of an undertaking. And once I got to the end, I knew that I needed a song at the beginning, a really strong opener. And it was hard to kind of figure out what would define this album right off the top, and what the beginning would be. And I had this song called Empty Piece that had just been kind of sitting around for a while, and it just matched perfectly what I was going through making this album, and kind of summed everything up for me. I think it's a good solid song. It kind of represents everything that you'll find on the album in a way, emotionally.
It's a great song, even in the studio, but once we do it live, there's a lot going on. I've got to switch between the keyboard and like the guitar, and that's fun for me, on my part. Plus, it's just a very vocally driven with, drum and bass, so that's something that makes it a pretty fun song to play too. Very, very mellow compared to a lot of other songs.
Allison was written towards the end of the album, and it's the second track. It was written in a day and recorded in a day. It just felt like I needed one of those kind of upbeat rock songs. It felt like the album needed another single type of song, so made that one of the last tracks I recorded, and I like it. I think it's now our favorite song to play live, because it just gets everybody moving. It's awesome.
That one I love playing as well. That's one of the top three, I'd say, because that one is just really, someone hears it and it's stuck in their head the next day. It can be their first time at our show, and once they hear that song, they're going to be like humming it to themselves on their way to work next morning.
Bloodlines is the third song off the album. It's, again, another one that I wrote towards the end of the process, and it felt like it just belonged in the world of Help and this album, and it reminds me a lot of our first album. Not necessarily sound-wise, but instrumentation and the way it flows. But the sound of it is very new. It sounds newer, like a newer song, That song is kind of just about being in a rut and not doing anything about it. It's just something that we all see and witness and maybe partake in every once in a while, and that's what that song's about.
Rides up there with Allison as well, because it's very, very catchy. I like that more of a rocky kind of stripped down one, and that's what I like about that one. It's very just like, it moves all over and it's just rocky, and it's just classic, thrasher right there.
It just felt like the album needed something to kind of a Kickstarter, just a good solid rock song felt like was missing, so I wrote that. And the name is partially inspired by the band Ride, because I just listened to them and they're awesome. And the music side of it is just simple, basic riff, the main riff, and I like how it kind of flows really well, and that's also another one that's really fun to play live. It's the shortest song off the album, but I think it definitely belongs. It's a good segue into the next song, which is the title track, Help, because it just kind of flows, because the song before it is a rock song and the song after it is a rock song, so it's a nice kind of ambient track in between, nice acoustic ambient track in between. Help, a lot like the song Cling later on, was written really spontaneously. It's was recorded all in one day, and it's just an idea that I came up with sitting around, and it has an interesting chord progression that I like.
Help, yeah, that one I do like too, because the not dueling guitars, but like what the two guitars are doing in the beginning and through the choruses, that's really great. I like that sound. It speaks me and Jeremy's chemistry there.
No Complaints, again, was written, it appears in the middle of the album, but it was actually written fairly early on, like Cling, Pilot, and the last song, If You Could.
Catchy song. I'm not doing too much on it, which I like playing that in the mid-set so I get a break, so that one's really fun. Very catchy song, like I said.
And I was able to write some lyrics in there that I'm proud of. So, yeah, basically just about the world and hypocrisy. And somehow finding peace whenever it feels like everything is just falling apart. Dummy is one that I wrote later, but felt like it belonged in this sound and space of this album. It's in standard tuning, which is something I'm fairly new at. I usually write a lot of my songs in drop D. I think all of the songs on the first album are in drop D. And so, tuning wise, it's standard in E, and tried to make a kind of dark song about how you can numb yourself by solely exploring negative thoughts, which isn't good. But that's kind of where I was at the time. Because I've kind of come a long way to realize that you don't always have to go to that place in order to write a good song. And that's sort of what I was under the impression of for a while. I was thinking of the movie Requiem for a Dream when I wrote it, and I was thinking of the scene when the two main characters, the couple, are standing there off on a building, looking at the city. There's a song that's playing in the background, and I kind of based this track around that, just feeling that the movie gave me, which is just like this warm kind of like, that would be nice, if they could be together, but no, everything's all messed up. But I like it. It's kind of an ambient segue. I like how the ambience in it, in the song, kind of sound a little dirty. There's something kind of mucky and like weird about those synthesizers, and it kind of creates like a warm feeling, but at the same time there's some distortion going on in the background, and kind of you sound almost it feels like you're almost at peace, but not quite because of the noise. Yeah, a lot of personal feelings in that song, and a lot of time spent writing the lyrics. But another good example of how when you're inspired, you just kind of go for it, and nothing can really stop you, which feels like it's hard to find when it hasn't happened in a while, but once I started writing that song, I couldn't stop until it was done. I like that song a lot. I don't think I've ever written a song like that.
Cling. That is my favorite one to play, I think, at the moment.
Another, again, once I started recording that, I couldn't stop and finished that song all in one day, and wrote all the lyrics in one day, and recorded it in one day, and boom, there you have it. That song's another fun song to play live. I think everyone likes playing that one.
I like its rhythm, like do 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 do. It's like almost like a 3, but it's not really. It's like one of those off rhythms I've just been a fan of weird rhythms too, so that could be it. But that and just the progression from clean to distortion back to clean, and then the really soft chorus between. Once that break hits in the solo, that's probably my favorite part of the whole song. Especially live, because you can just feel the energy rising at that part, and it goosebumps just talking about it.
It was written around the time when a lot of outside influence, and I don't really talk a whole lot about outside influences a lot. Like, when I say that, I mean like what's happening in the world, because I feel like although that stuff can affect everything, you know, a part of what I do is to kind of get away from all of that and think about what's going on inside, and what else is going on, you know? And that song is, I would akin it to USA Song, very outside influenced. The last song, If You Could, sounds more like sort of the direction I'm going in as well. Now, it's a lot more gritty and heavy sound. I think it's the heaviest song on the album, and it was written very quickly. I like how when you listen to it on headphones, I really tried to purposefully make it so that you hear a new sound every time you hear it, or maybe every other time you hear it. Because there's so many instrumentation going on. I think there's like something like almost 200 tracks on that song, which is pretty common for a lot of my music. But the layers and sounds and different effects all work really well together. And towards the end, I love how it's so like gritty and heavy. It just sounds like every other measure that the amps are just being turned up or something. It sounds like the song is literally exploding out of the speaker. So I like that song. It seemed fitting to end the album on a kind of chaotic note, because there's a lot of songs on the album that are sort of well calculated, catchy music, and I thought it would be cool to just end it with sort of a big, fuck all that, you know.